And then in about 2 minutes, I'll put up the first slide, and then I won't change that until after you start talking sometime later. Yeah, you sound clear to me, so. Actually, the text was in the email, which you probably got. Okay. Okay, I understand. Some changes, but minor ones. Okay. Sometimes you dance and sometimes you struggle in this game of life on earth. And then along come non-physical entities like us to tell you that this contrast is the very reason you chose to be here. And sometimes you dance and sometimes you struggle in this game of life on earth. And then along come non-physical entities like us to tell you that this contrast is the very reason you chose to be here. And sometimes you dance and sometimes you struggle in this game of life on earth. And then along come non-physical entities like us to tell you that this contrast is the very reason you chose to be here. It's the experience of the struggle that stimulates the desire for more dancing and the fun of creating something different. So then your reaction is, enough already with the contrast, how about a little more of the fun part? So let's talk a little about reaching for the stars, your birthright. Let's talk about remembering why you are eager to come to this space-time realm. Let's talk about refusing to settle for less than what you want, for less than a brilliant, exciting world. And in all of that, let's truly understand what contrast is. Because contrast is not shorthand for something bad or unwanted. Contrast means the difference between a feel-good place and a feel-not-so-good place. And how you feel is all important. So we'll also talk some more about your emotional guidance system. Let's begin here. We'll start by laying out some ground rules because, as always, we're going to be using finite language to describe infinite ideas. And by that, we don't mean these ideas are complex and difficult to describe, because the absolute truth about everything is elegantly simple. It's just that you're in a space-time virtual reality, and you're simply not used to thinking of things as timeless and spaceless. But in reality, there is neither space nor time. There are no shapes and borders and boundaries and discrete things. These are just the artifacts of your created context, the stage you have set up and on which you play out your life and have your experiences. The purpose of these discussions is to help you understand more completely who you are and the power you have to create new things in this world, or, for that matter, in any world. And so as we collaborate here on the answers to your questions, we'll be as clear as we can and keep things as simple as we can. But often your questions run deep. And unless we move beyond time-space concepts, we just can't give you an adequate answer or even any answer at all. And so, on occasion, we end up engaging with you at a deeper level. Either way, our intent is always to be consistent with the absolute truth about everything. To keep it simple or go deep is your choice. For example, today we'll be talking about things as though you have a past. If you want to keep it simple, take that at face value. The deeper context is that your past is what you've chosen. It's a set of facts about you and your world you're experiencing as what you call memory. Pick the level that feels good to you and let's dive into it. In that memory store of yours when you were growing up, how many times were you told you have to face reality? By those words, your perhaps well-meaning parents and other teachers meant that you cannot expect to have it all, that in this world you all have limited options. What they were proposing to you is that you need to focus on and understand the reality of your circumstances, and that you'll be happier once you accept what lies within the realms of possibility and what does not. Think about that memory. Can you feel the disappointment of hearing those words? And then what happened? For many of you, as you heard them over and over, you chose to believe them. After all, those guys knew everything, didn't they? And so you began the process of reining in your desires, and right along with them, your imagination. You became a stranger to big dreams because you couldn't step into those dreams without feeling uncomfortable. Many of you thereby set foot firmly on the road to everything that is ordinary and unspectacular. You went to school, your training camp for that job, where many of you spend most of your waking life doing something you do not want to do. And the world looks on approvingly. Yes, you are doing the right thing, the practical thing, with a steady job and a good career. So then you progressed to safer and safer options. In other words, less contrast. If you're one of those who is obsessed with reality, you're condemning yourself to more of it. You've heard us say, the better it gets, the better it gets. You may have noticed the opposite, that the worse it gets, the worse it gets. Why is that? Because this focus on reality brings the vibration of what you are currently experiencing into your own vibration. And by law of attraction, that brings more and more of the same vibrational stuff into your experience. Your belief choices are self-reinforcing. If you're choosing to believe and practicing the belief that there are limits, that you can't have it all, that maybe it's time to go out and get that steady job, that unless you pull yourself together here, you're heading for a bad fall, what you're including in your vibration is scarcity and a whole stack of must-dos. It has to. Because the truth of this is that you're telling the universe over and over, less please. That's your vibrational set point. So it turns out focusing on reality is a great idea if reality feels good. But facing reality usually means settling for less. So then our question to you is, how's that working out for you? Have you found that even being realistic didn't shield you from bumps in the road? From where we sit, we see that as you throttle back your desires, you lessen your choices. And as you lessen your choices, you lessen your excitement. As you lessen your excitement, you lessen the ability to make big decisions and the focus and energy that goes along with those decisions. You start down that path and end up with nothing to create and no reason to be here at all. What does a fish know about water? Answer: a fish knows nothing about water until it leaves it and until it has some frame of reference by which to know what is and isn't water. And like that fish, some of you have been hanging out at lower levels of vibration for so long that it's like water to you. It feels like the status quo. In that place, when you hit a bump in the road, when you manifest something unwanted, sometimes you find yourself shutting down even further with what seems like no way to slow the rate of descent. Let's say your emotional guidance scale looks like this. 10 is ecstasy. 9 is joy or passion. 8 is fun or excitement. 7 is peace or calmness. 6 is feeling in control or contentment. 5 is boredom or listlessness. 4 is vague unease or too many must-dos. 3 is anger. 2 is fear or dread. And 1 is despair and hopelessness. So what's your status quo? Have you been hanging out at level 5 or less? And here's the all-important question. Do you feel powerless to change course? Because changing course is the whole point of this discussion. It's always a question of where you put your focus. As with everything about your world, it's a choice. So let's talk a little about making a new choice. A different choice than you made way back when. a choice that can change your life. This year, this month, this day, this minute would be an excellent time to start. So what about this facing reality stuff? Facing it, focusing on it, means thinking of it as real and unchangeable. It means being obsessed with it to the point of forgetting the truth of who you are. Think about it. Knowing what you are, an extension of universal consciousness. Does facing reality sound sensible to you? It's about the dumbest advice on the planet, and we've heard a lot of dumb advice from that planet of yours. Here's an alternative. Maintain perspective. Be an observer, not of that so-called reality, but go sit on the moon and contemplate your world and your life. Be in the stands as well as on the field. Ask yourself, why are you here? No matter what story you've invented, and no matter where you find yourself in that story, the fundamental reason you all come into this world is to experience the joy of creating in this life on earth environment. There is no higher purpose than that. There can be no higher purpose than that, because it means doing what you eagerly came here to do, to mix it up, make new decisions and experience new things. We want you to maintain an awareness of who you are and hold that perspective so that when you experience that contrast, when you hit those unwanted experiences, they do not shut you down. Stay away from that cycle of the worse it gets, the worse it gets. Then you will thrive no matter what the circumstances are. Now let's look at that emotional guidance scale again. When was the last time you hung out at a 9 or 10? Be honest with yourself here. Doesn't the thought of being passionate about your life start to take you back to that place where you knew it was all possible? Can you not feel the yearning inside you? We promise you that the sky is within your reach. Of course, there will always be contrast. But how about choosing to hang out in the 5 to 10 range and not the 1 to 6 range? It's yours for the asking. And we, of course, are here to support you on this adventure. You have but to ask.